Okay, now
how will we know that he came?
Who, what, when?
If there are no miracles, how do we know that he came?
You're worried. Face Hasadah Arishima. I'm not answering your question, but the Rishima from the Friedrich Rebbe, it's printed. It's printed this Gimel Samudal, where the Friedrich Rebbe asked his father, the Rebbe Rashab, how is Mashiach going to know he's Mashiach? And the tone of the question was, Mashiach finds out Mashiach, the Eibusha tells him, B'derech Nevuah. In Nevuah, maybe you're not sure. So the Rebbe Rashab answered the Friedrich Rebbe, and when the Eibusha took Avram, he told Avram Avinu to take Yitzchak to the Akedah. He wasn't sure. He wasn't sure. So he says, but Mashiach is going to know. Mashiach is going to be told, but every Mashiach is going to know. In other words, if you're going to say that the Nevi'im, there's Madregas, that Madrega, there's no doubt. So somehow we'll know. Don't worry. That's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem is, but if it's done, we have to bring Mashiach to Cain. To bring Mashiach. Okay, one more RaMbaM. I'm sorry to bore you. I like to talk about RaMbaM. Halacha Gimel. Halacha Gimel, yeah. Right, everyone was talking about Goyim. Mashiach is going to come, right? The older about the Chazal. Oh, what's going to happen to Goyim? I remember the Vakarkat. I remember the Rebbe saying it. The Kutas Sichas Chelik of Gimel Bolak. The Vakarkat Sicha. Vakarkat Kol Bnei Sheis. The line that I remember, the Rebbe was talking about the idea. He brought different shittas in Chazal and then in Rishonim, where the Goyim are going to be when Mashiach comes or not. I remember the Rebbe saying it's impossible to say. In other words, if you go with those shittas, which according to the Rebbe is not like the RaMbaM and not like the Alter Rebbe, that after Mashiach comes, there's going to be very few Goyim. It's impossible to say that the Eibush is going to take the life of Goyim because Teiras Chesed. Teiras Chesed. So I just somehow, this sits in my head. It's almost 40 years ago. At the Rebbe gesagt, wird mehr nicht, God forbid to think that if you go with that sheet, that after Mashiach comes, there's no Goyim, and the Rebbe holds that, the RaMbaM holds there will be Goyim, and that he brings it eyes out the Rebbe holds that there will be Goyim. I'll talk about this in a minute. But if you go with that oifen that there's not going to be Goyim, Chas v'shom, they say that Hashem is going to end the life of Goyim, because Teres Chesed, mehr nicht, I remember the words, was bei Zunehmen, bazei, dem Keach Ein-Sof. In other words, he's not going to kill anybody, but just stop having babies. Mehr nicht, for some reason this sits in my head, it's almost 40 years ago. But anyway, the Rebbe has a sikh about Goyim, when Goyim Mashiach comes. I'm not going to go into all the details because it's not important. Now we got two. Now we got three. The Rebbe brings two shittas, basically. It's based on different Gemaras, Midrashim and Yerushalmis. It's a whole thing. It's a very complicated sikha. The bottom line is, the way the Rebbe understands this question about Goyim, Lasat Lavei, it's not whether they're going to be Goyim or not. That's not the question. The question is whether Goyim serve Hashem or Goyim serve Yidden. That's the question. Not the Eibusha not going to kill anybody. It's not the Eibusha style, you know. The question is only,
what's the difference?
Wait, bald-headed. Okay, let me love this. Okay, I'm not going to give you the full love this. I don't want your mamish put you to sleep, but just have v'nim v'leinim a bit of love. Of course, there's going to be Goyim. The question is, are Goyim going to serve the Eibishter, or are Goyim going to serve Yidden? And the truth of the matter is, it makes very little difference. It makes very, like he said, it makes very little difference. As it relates to Jews, it makes very little difference. But the way the Rebbe explained it, this is the point I want to make, is what do you mean Goyim serve Yidden? He did this to you 35 years ago. Yeah, I can do it now too. He used to sit next to my Farbrengens. This guy. It's how it was. I don't know how many years ago it was, a long time ago. But I remember his name. It wasn't so long ago. I wouldn't remember his name. If it was less time, I wouldn't remember his face. But to him, I remember the name and the face. Iza Simid, that was a very long time ago. So, the Rebbe says like this. The Rebbe says like this. What does it mean Goyim serve Yidden? They're going to do landscaping. For this, we're going to have AI. Even now you have AI, yeah? You don't need the guy to do landscaping, to fix your pipes, but you need a guy for. So the Rebbe says you need a guy to sit and learn about the Eibishter. Because you need a world that supports a Yid. Right? What's the hardest thing about Golas? What's the Lashon? Ein adei roi lakach, which you have in the Gemara in many places. Right? What's so hard? I have to serve Hashem. Yeah. Why is it so difficult? The answer is because people around me aren't. It's very difficult. I tell my students all the time. I teach in Zal, the Beis Medrash. I say, if you walked into this Beis Medrash and everybody was learning, I promise you, you'd be such a masmid. You don't have to change one iota. You're not one drop smarter. You're the same lack of, you know what, on your achirayim. But if you walk into this room and everyone is learning, you'll learn. So why can't you learn now? And the answer is because they're not learning. And human nature is, RaMbaM brings, all people are affected by their environment. If you live in an environment where the people around you are busy with narishkeiten, even if you fight against them and you succeed, you are on some level held back by the people around you. That's why the Gemara says that it's possible, the Chazal say that there were people who were royal in Nevuah, Shetish Aleim Shechina, Hillel, and that whatever Shmuel. There were people who deserved Ruach HaKodesh, they deserved Nevuah. Why didn't they have Nevuah? Whatever the lumdus is, because Ein Hadoy Ra'elakach, because the generation wasn't worthy. What does he have to do with his generation? And the answer is everybody has to do with their generation. A Rebbe is another story. But Azoi, people are affected by the environment. If you're in an environment of Golus, you're the most righteous Jew, the Golus affects you. It's a fact of life. It's a fact of life. One of the facts of Mashiach is that goys, according to those shittas, that the goyim are not serving the Eibush, that they're serving Yidden. What's going to be the service? What's the goy going to be doing to help us? You open up the newspaper and you're going to read Ladas Asavaya Buvad. In dem vet mitzachkochen. Imagine you live in a world. Imagine if you live in a world where you open up the newspaper and it's not about who murdered whom. It's not about gossip about this entertainer or this musician. But it's about ideas. Push it. Imagine you open up the New York Times and it's not about the Eibush Chas v'Shalom. God's a lazy. We don't New York Times. It's about ideas. Philosophies of education. Philosophies about morality, philosophies about the quality about the meaning of life. If we lived in a world where people's street talk was about meaningful things, we would have a much easier time being meaningful people. Because the environment affects us. So whatever the shittas are, like he said, the difference is a nuance, is a subtlety. But when the RaMbaM writes, right, he made the Siyum before. Lo yiyeh eisek kol ha'elam kulei ela l'das Hashem b'vad. That's goyim, Rabbi say. Lo yiyeh eisek kol ha'elam kulei. What's going to be the eisek of the whole world? You open up the newspaper, the last page is not going to be who won the football game. The last page is going to be l'das Hashem. If you live in a world where the goy says, I want to understand God, I want to understand a little better. And there's a vikuach, and this one understands this way, and this one understands this way, and this one understands to such an extent. When you live in a world where the goy says, I teach me about the Eibishter, that's the taich. A goy serves a Yid, whether you say that the goy is officially serving a Yid, or the goy is serving the Eibishter, and the Yid is benefiting from it. The Rebbe holds that according to the RaMbaM, goyim after Mashiach don't serve Yidden. The goyim after Mashiach serve the Eibishter. And that he brings rice that Alter Rebbe holds like this RaMbaM also, which is consistent with this whole Shitas HaRambam that I mentioned before, that the RaMbam's philosophy is that there is a world, not there isn't a world. If you say that Goyim serve Yidden and not serve the Eibishter, it means it's like if the world has to be destroyed for Mashiach to come. If you hold that Goyim are servants of Hashem directly, I call it a broad Mashiach rather than a narrow Mashiach. And the RaMbam's approach is that the world exists. And one of the eyes, the world exists, that a goy is part of the Eibishter's kavanah. He also keeps Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Neach, and he keeps them because the Eibishter gave them. He keeps them because the Eibishter gave them at Har Sinai. And he spends his days and nights, he wants to know the Eibishter. I will verstehen. So the RaMbaM writes, Lo yeh eitze kol ha'olam kulei. What's a goy doing? He's discussing with his friend and his neighbor, how do you understand the Eibishter? How do you understand Achas Hashem? How do you understand Hashgacha Pratis? How do you understand Gilul L'kus in the world? How do you understand that the Eibush Tekvayachol needs me? If you live in an environment where everybody's speak is about the Eibush, the Fazer, the RaMbaM, Lefichach. Yidden, Chachamim, Gdולים, Viodעים has beautiful sichas in every word. ויודעים, דברים, הסתומים, וישיגו דעת בוראם כפי כוח האדם. The reason Yidden are going to be able to be as close to the Eibush as they're going to be, the RaMbaM says, we're going to know Hashem to the maximum capacity of man. In other words, people, Yidden, are going to know the Eibush so much, you can't know more. Now the Rebbe holds this is actually a medida v'agbola, it's a limitation. But this is the details in the sichas, right? You know why a Yid is Yidden dvarim astumim and all the mysteries and secrets, right? They'll be Chachamim Gdולים, they'll be very wise. V'yed misvarim astumim all secrets. V'yasigu das ben. Why? Because eisa kol ha'olam is das alay b'vad. When you live in a world where people are busy with more meaningful things, and if you live in the world in which we live today, meaning is that people should talk about morality. Meaning is that people should talk about what they used to call in the political elections from the 80s, it's dead and buried, family values. If you live in a world where the Asik Kol Ha'olam, and of course the Rebbe is medayek the word Asik, it's not their talk that's superficial, it's their fandom, it's what they koch Asik, what you're preoccupied with. If people have an Asik Kol Ha'olam, if the people in the world care about understanding what it means to be human, and what it means to be created in the image of God, and what it means to behave in a way that honors the Tselem Elokim, the image of God, which the Eibishter puts onto each person, in that environment, a Yid can achieve a Yid Shleimus, which is Chachamim Gdולים, Yidden dvarim asugim, hastumim v'esigu das ben v'kech adam. It's just consistent. This idea is consistent with the RaMbaM's approach to everything. The RaMbaM understands that the Eibishter made a world because he wanted to be a world. The Eibishter made a goy because he wants to be a goy. The Eibishter gave a human being a mind because he wants a human being to use his mind. And all of this ends up in a world where you live in this world the way the Eibishter wants you to live, and the world itself is a representation of what the Eibishter is. Verstehst? This is the idea. This is the idea. This is the idea. This is the idea. So this is so what's the point? I'm not sure what the point is. We have cooking of a goy, right? We have cooking of a goy. Bechlal, you know, the Rebbe spoke Takem Mem Hey, 1985, the first Siyum HaRambam was Yidden Nissen, and the Rebbe was on television. It was on cable television. So the Rebbe spoke a lot about the RaMbaM. Obviously, it was the first Siyum HaRambam, and one of the things the Rebbe spoke about in that Farbrengen was the RaMbaM's involvement with humanity. There's letters from the RaMbaM where the RaMbaM describes his schedule. That he was a doctor, he was a physician. And he became a physician because he needed parnasa. He needed parnasa. His brother was supporting him, was killed. And he had to support two families. He needed parnasa. He became a doctor. And the RaMbaM describes his practice. The way his practice worked was there was no appointments. If you wanted to see the RaMbaM, you got in line. There could be 100 people in line, 200. He didn't stop his practice till he saw every patient that day. And if you couldn't afford the medicine, he gave you the money for it. If you could pay, you paid. You couldn't pay, you didn't pay. I'll tell you, Lashon Hara, I love Lashon Hara. I forgot where I was, but I once had an opportunity to talk to Dr. Weiss, the Rebbe's doctor. You know Dr. Weiss? He's a tzaddik, and he's a malach. He's a malach, he's an angel. So he came to heal the Rebbe, took after the Rebbe, yeah? What was the schar that he got for that? Anybody know what the schar for Dr. Weiss got for coming to Crown Isaac after the Rebbe? You know what happened to him? He lost his job. He had a partnership. They threw him out. He had a few partners in practice. In Chicago. He lost. So he tells me it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. I think I heard from him directly. I'm trying to remember where, but I didn't see it in the video. I think he told it to me. So I was able to practice medicine the way I want to practice medicine. I said, what does that mean? That I don't have to charge. That was his greatest uftu. In other words, when he had to practice, he had to follow the rules. There's other doctors, they want to get paid, they want to retire early, they want to have a nice house. So he never had to charge. That's what he told me. Yeah. I lost my job, He lost his parnosa, looking after the Rebbe. And what was his chad? And now I can practice medicine the way I want. How do you practice medicine the way I want? If people can't afford to pay, they don't have to pay. I think it's the RaMbaM gefiert. This is the RaMbaM's life. So the Rebbe spoke about how the RaMbaM's life is a marshal for Dide B'Tachtoinim. The RaMbaM's life was a marshal for was a Yid is. In Welt. How a Jew is in the world. Not that there is no world. In the world. And that's the inner Mashiach. And in a tiny way, this is the avoid of each person. You know, for a special inyan. Right? You have to love the Eibishter. There's a lot of meanings to the words about Haftas Hashem Elokecha. You don't see this. Yeah, one meaning is you should love the Eibishter. Another meaning is you will love the Eibishter. And another meaning is that your life makes other people love the Eibishter. Shehei Shem Shamayim Misahiv Al Yodach. A person meets you and interacts with you and says, I want to be like you. Ich will lieb haben den Eibishter nechet. L'chaim lebracha, l'chaim lebracha, l'chaim lebracha, l'chaim lebracha, l'chaim lebracha, l'chaim lebracha.